Packers.
Vikings.
Packers.
Vikings.
Vikings. Red state. Blue state. Vegan.
Carnivore.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
Optimist.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities,
Live
our families,
united.
even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up at liveunited.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the United Way Volunteer Reader, Tutor, and Mentor Orientation, hosted by May Cobb, featuring Stacy Stewart, Jeff Peniston, Ron Heinz and his little brother Jonathan, Joaquin Carbonell, Aaron Schmidt, Juana Slade, Namdi Asamoah, and Leanne Bannerman. And now a special message from Secretary of Education Arnie Duncan.
Hi, I'm Arnie Duncan. Nationwide, United Way has pledged to recruit 1 million new volunteer readers, tutors, and mentors over the next 3 years. Here's what it could look like where you live. Ruth Rusi is a 92-year-old retired teacher. She also happens to be a volunteer reader.
We have this program where the parents sign up with United Way and they get 12 books. If they have books that people can read to them, this helps them with their language, which helps them when they start school.
Dwayne Ingram is part of a team mentoring program through a partnership with United Way.
The most rewarding aspect of the mentoring project for me is when I meet the parents and they say things like Mario's grades are improving or Josue's attitude is changing. It shows us that what we're doing is not in vain. The young people, black, white, Hispanic, by them seeing us, they all know that all things are possible because now they have some reference point. If he did it, he came from the same background I came from, I can do it too.
This tutoring program is a United Way community partner in Washington, D.C.
We're on the front lines every day, and in the schools we see kids that are just clamoring for the support. Every day we're working with kids that just need individual attention, and the opportunity to work one-on-one with the student is what really makes the difference.
I see with my student, he wants to do better because he doesn't want to disappoint me.
For every person that volunteers, it's another kid that gets into the program. So we really see the impact you can have.
He's funny. He trying the best with me. I think that I like him.
The kids, they don't see them as a volunteer. They see them as their mentor, as their tutor, as somebody that they can look up to.
You can be a part of this tremendous effort. In many communities, your local United Way has opportunities waiting for volunteers to fill them right now. Or you may want to find your own opportunity to tutor at your local school, to read to preschoolers at the library, to reach out to the kids in your neighborhood. But whatever you decide to do, you'll make a difference in your community and in the life of a child. Please go to the United Way website, liveunited.org, to find out how you can get involved.
Hi, I'm May Cobb, and I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us for this volunteer orientation. And more importantly, thanks for your willingness to make a real difference in the life of a young person. Here's what we'll be covering in today's webcast. First, we're going to learn how volunteers can help students succeed. Then we'll hear some from volunteers telling us a bit more about what it really is like to volunteer. And finally, we'll be sharing a few ideas for how to find a volunteer opportunity in your community. We'll also point you to some other tools and resources to help you get started. If at any point during the webcast you have some technical issues with the video, please try refreshing your browser. After the webcast, several of our participants and I will stay online for live chats to answer any questions you still have. If you have questions during the webcast itself, our online staff is standing by and can address your questions and comments via the Facebook app that you see at the right of your webpage. In addition to the Facebook comments, you may have noticed several poll questions located at the bottom of the webpage. Make sure that you respond, if you haven't already done so, because we'll be discussing them later on in the webcast. We have a lot to accomplish today, so let's go ahead and get started. The research is clear. Volunteers who read, tutor, or mentor put students on the path to success. And for that reason, United Way has issued a call to action to recruit 1 million volunteer readers, tutors, and mentors over the next 3 years. I'm joined today by Stacy Stewart, United Way's Executive Vice President for Community Impact, and she'll tell us more about this call to action. Thank you very much, Stacy, for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, May.
I am hoping that you can start us off here by telling us a little bit more about why United Way is inviting people to volunteer with students.
Well, we announced, as you mentioned, this call to action to recruit 1 million people because we know that if we're going to improve the education outcomes for our kids in this country, it's going to require all of us to be involved. And there are things that each one of us can do to make a difference in a kid's life. One of the things that we know works, you mentioned it, May, and we know it's proven to work in communities all around this country, is if we get people volunteering to serve kids, to help them read on grade level by the end of 3rd grade, help tutor them to make sure that they can be successful in school through middle school and high school, and actually serve as a mentor. Those things can be very, very effective and very helpful to make sure that kids can be academically successful, and that's why we issued this call to action. United Way issued a challenge to America to say by 2018, we together can cut the dropout rate in half, and together we will do that. So this is the opportunity for all of us to get involved and make sure that we can play a part in ensuring that all kids have a quality education.
And recruiting 1 million volunteers is a really powerful number, and we can imagine what can be done. So I know things must be happening locally. Can you tell us a bit more about what's happened so far?
Absolutely. We're seeing just tremendous energy around this call to action in communities all around the country. You know, in Pittsburgh, our United Way with their community partners announced a goal to recruit 4,000 volunteers to serve the needs of young people, and they're working in 30 struggling schools in Pittsburgh and making sure that those kids can be successful in their schools. In San Diego, they had issued a call for 10,000 volunteers to come forward to be deployed in schools and community centers all around the community. We're seeing a lot of energy and excitement there. And we're working with partners as well. You know, in New Haven, Connecticut, our United Way is working with an organization called Experience Corps. Experience Corps recruits seniors in communities all around the country to work with young people, helping them read on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. The success of our United Way and Experience Corps there is allowing young people to be able to improve their learning outcomes 40% versus kids that don't have access to these reading buddies and tutors. And that improvement is being seen in 1 year. So again, we're seeing many, many more communities take on this challenge, put volunteers to work, and ensure that people, everyday people, can make a difference and help us get to this goal of ensuring every kid has access to a quality education.
A lot of exciting things happening across the nation, but great ways for people to still be engaged. And you're telling us that the ultimate goal is to increase high school graduation rates. But you're also telling us that United Way is looking for volunteers to work with young people of all ages. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You know, we set up this volunteer call to action so that anybody could see themselves being a part of it. So if you're the kind of person who wants to volunteer 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week for a young child in elementary school, that's a great place that you can sign up to be a reading buddy and help a kid learn to improve their reading skills. If you see yourself being strong in a particular academic subject and want to tutor kids for a couple hours a month, for example, you can do that by being a tutor, especially for kids in middle school and high school. And then what we also know that young people need are just concerned, caring adults in their lives who care about them, who can coach them, help them through difficult times that they may be facing that may also challenge them with respect to school, and that's where you can serve as a mentor. So we want this call to action to fit the needs of many people given their time commitments, their time availability, and what they think they're prepared and willing and able to do.
That's great, and particularly for all of the folks who are joining us now, there's really a wide range of different kinds of opportunities, and they're all important and very much needed. So thank you, Stacy, very much. That was a great overview.
Thanks, May.
Now let's hear from a teacher. Here's New York State Teacher of the Year, Jeff Peniston, speaking at the United Way Education Town Hall earlier this year.
I've been a 25-year veteran teacher of science in the high school, public school classrooms, and what people often don't know about me is that I've spent even more of my life as a volunteer working for United Way agencies through Campfire USA as a children's summer camp program director. The reality is that a public school teacher, I get 75 minutes every other day to change a kid's life and help them to grow. But I can't do it all alone. My experience in the classroom is that when you look to your community for volunteerism, they're all over. I mean, part of the reason that I'm standing here today is because I've loved to take my kids outside the building and do other things with them. And I constantly find community members and parents who want to step up and they want to be part of the process. And when I think of my community as a place to find mentors or tutors or support for kids, it's all around. They're willing to step up outside the school day and to be available to kids, and it works. If we can get kids to take advantage of what their community has to offer, this big, complicated problem really has a bright possible future.
As Jeff said, teachers are committed to their students, but they can't do it all on their own. And that's where people like you come in. So now let's talk a little bit about what it's really like to volunteer and hear from a panel of people who will share their stories. I'll introduce them and the programs they are working with now. Joining us today are a big brother, little brother pair, Marine Sergeant Ron Heinz and Jonathan. We're also joined by Joaquin Carbonell, program coordinator for a neighborhood tutoring program in Washington, D.C. that was featured in our opening video. And finally, Aaron Schmidt, an e-mentor through Into Books. Into Books is a web-based program where volunteer and students read books and exchange letters using a safe online platform. We're also going to turn to those poll questions I mentioned earlier. And so if you haven't already answered, please do so now. These questions are the kinds of things new volunteers often wonder about. So let's start with question number 1. Imagine you're a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, and your student tells you about a problem he or she is having at school. What should you do? So let's look at the results as what folks are signing in on saying. It depends. Check with the program supervisor if you're not sure. And what we find is that most people choose that, and let's now turn to Ron Heinz and see what he says. He's with the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, and let's see how he would answer that question. So Ron, what do you think about that?
That's a very good question. First of all, as a Big Brother, we work through a teamwork organization, Big Brother Big Sister, the teacher, and also the parent. Situations academic-wise, if we face a tough challenge, the school would contact the parent contact the Big Brother, the Big Teacher organization. They will contact me, and my job is to find an easy solution to try to persuade and tell my little or my mentee the best way to go out and do it. And I try to imitate it as well as my personal life experience and make it the best way possible.
Great, Ron. That's very helpful. I'd also like to ask, you have a full-time job, you've got other commitments, a very busy life. How did you find the time? What motivated you to actually become a Big Brother?
Everything motivated me to become a Big Brother. I just want to see myself in Jonathan's shoes because with everything I do, I know he could do better. And just find the right time is, all it takes is 5 minutes a day or maybe 10 minutes more. Technology is very powerful, so time always evolves no matter what time it is. All it takes is 5 minutes and that's it.
Thanks, Ron. Jonathan, let's hear from you now. What's it been like for you to have Ron as your big brother?
It's been great because I have somebody that I can count on if I have any problems. If I'm stressed out, I could just talk to him.
So my understanding is that you and Ron have been paired up together for the past 3 years, and actually pair of the year. Is it what you expected? If you could tell other kids that are going into a similar circumstance, is it what you thought it was going to be like? Did you do the things you thought you were going to do? Or just what has your experience been about that?
It's been it's been pretty much what I expected. I've done a lot of cool stuff with him. He was actually teaching me self-defense the Marine way, so it was pretty cool. Then we also went to a football game, and we went white water rafting, I think it was the name of it. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. you get to do a lot of stuff with him. I've gotten to do a lot of stuff with him, like go to the movies and stuff. We do that a lot. So yeah, it's been pretty similar.
That's great. Thanks so much, Jonathan. Nicely said. Let's move on now to our second poll question. You just found that your boss needs you at a big meeting, and there's a chance you'll miss your volunteer assignment. What should you do? Let's see what most of you said. Let your program supervisor know you have a conflict as soon as possible. Right, so attend the meeting, but let your supervisor know as soon as you can. I'm going to turn it over now to Joaquin, who works for a tutoring program in Washington, D.C. called For Love of Children, to see how he would advise someone in this situation. So Joaquin, how would you recommend that busy people find a way to balance volunteering with all the rest of the things going on in their lives?
Well, we understand, that being that our volunteers come from all different walks of life and have, a variety of professions, that our volunteers are very busy people. And so communication is a very important part of maintaining your commitment as a volunteer. So, we understand that those things will come up, that there will be scheduling conflicts, and we're willing to work with folks. With all of the moving parts that are in a tutoring program that serves as many kids as For Love of Children serves, we have grown pretty adept at improvising and accommodating those scheduling changes. So, communicating to your supervisor, letting them know, and, because we've encountered this situation often, we just want tutors to know that there's always a plan B. We can always find a substitute, we can always switch things around. So you should never feel like you're totally abandoning anybody, because there's always an alternate plan.
Great, thanks so much, Joaquin. And now let's go to question 3. What's the length of the typical volunteer commitment? Let's check the results from the poll. And it sees most of you have said, in fact, what most programs do ask for volunteers to commit for the school year. Let's turn to Aaron. I know that volunteers with Into Books are paired up and stay with the same student for the duration of a school year. Can you tell us about what you do?
Yes, I'd love to, May. The Into Books program, it starts in October, and then we begin by exchanging letters through an online platform that Into Books has set up. And then each month, we read the same book with our student, and then we exchange letters with our student back and forth. The books are selected by the teachers, and so Into Books actually operates through classrooms. And so we found that Into Books has made a big impact through the students. We've received letters, or I received letters from the teachers last year saying what a big impact the program has had on their students and how they've improved over the school year.
Terrific. And so my understanding is that the commitment is for the school year, but what kind of flexibility is there within the program, if there is any?
That's a great question. I've had tremendous flexibility with the Into Books program because I can read the books on my own time, and I can also write the letters on my own time because everything is online. And so it's great for anybody that has a very busy schedule. So if you work a lot of hours, you're able to still have a tremendous connection and commitment with one student over the course of a school year. But you can do this on your own time. So I highly recommend it. I've had a wonderful experience with Into Books.
That's terrific. That sounds wonderful. Joaquin, let me turn it back to you. We've heard from Aaron about some of the flexibility within the program with Into Books, but what if someone's really just first getting started and are just a little overwhelmed at signing up for such a steep amount of time, or what is perceived to be such? Even if the payoff will be terrific, how do they get, how do you whet their appetite? How do you let them get involved in some other ways? Are there things that can be done with your program that would allow for some flexibility as far as the time is concerned?
Certainly. Even with For Love of Children, a program where those year-long commitments really drive the work that we do with our students, there are a variety of opportunities available to volunteers. For the folks that can't commit to the week in, week out, we have substitute tutor positions where you would be asked to come in every other week, or it's kind of when you're available, or we have testers who come in and administer tests to students. on a semi-regular basis. And we also have done-in-a-day opportunities for groups of volunteers that are associated with other organizations. But speaking of other organizations, you know, there are other groups, other nonprofits in the DC area and across the nation that those kinds of volunteer opportunities of varying lengths are available. So there are always opportunities, there are always different commitments that you can commit to it for love of children and elsewhere. So, you know, getting started with the volunteer opportunity is very simple, very straightforward.
Thanks, Joaquin, very much, and thanks to everyone on our panel. If anyone watching has other questions, and we know that some have been coming through, our panelists will be here to chat following the webcast. Our next guest is Leanne Bannerman, and she's going to be joining us from Seattle. But before we get to Leanne, here are messages from two terrific United Way advocates.
Hello, I'm Juana Slade, Chair of the United Way's National Women's Leadership Council and a proud supporter of United Way of Anderson County and Anderson, South Carolina. The United Way Women's Leadership Council is a national network of 50,000 passionate, community-minded women dedicated to advancing the common good all across the U.S. I'm representing the Women's Leadership Council today to lend our support of United Way's efforts to recruit 1 million volunteers. Now, I know that having caring adults in my life helped me to get where I am today, but I also know that there are so many kids out there who don't get the same support that I had. That's where you come in. Each of us has the power to help a young person succeed in school and life. To all the women out there, this is our personal invitation to you to get involved. United Way's Women's Leadership Council has committed to recruiting 100,000 of the 1 million volunteers. I have no doubt that we will accomplish this goal because when women come together and live united, there's nothing we can't do. Pledge today to become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, and see the difference that you can make.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education.
Right up here.
So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour
Lights there, darts there.
to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
You can be a reader, tutor, or mentor too. Take the pledge at liveunited.org/volunteer.
Do you wear this?
Well, you've just been challenged by Nnamdi and Juana, and if you want to take them up on their invitation to pledge to be a volunteer reader, tutor, and mentor, we'll show you how in just a few minutes. And if you're already pledged, thank you again, and we'll show you how you can invite your family, friends, coworkers, neighbors to join you as well. So hey, Leanne, I see you on the screen. We're going to be talking with Leanne Bannerman, who's the director of the Volunteer Center at the United Way of King County in Seattle. Leanne matches volunteers with the right volunteer opportunities every day, so this is a great chance for us to take advantage of her expertise. So Leanne, we've gathered a few additional questions that people often ask about volunteering as a reader, tutor, and mentor. Tell us how you answer them in Seattle.
Okay. I will do my best, May. I do want to remind everyone, I'll talk about what's happening in Seattle, but definitely always contact your local United Way with any questions you have about volunteering.
So why don't you get us started and tell us specifically what people in Seattle are doing to volunteer with students.
Okay, great. Well, here at United Way of King County, we run a great volunteer reader program where people from the community spend an hour each week reading aloud to young children in preschools and Head Start programs. So it's one of those great photo ops. Kids are just so cute and they're really engaged and they love those volunteers. But more importantly, it helps to foster a love of reading, gains in vocabulary, and a higher readiness for school, which is one of our priorities. So that's one way that we're able to connect people. We also have a volunteer website that has hundreds of opportunities and provides lots of other ways you can help students at all grade levels and all ages. What I often suggest is this: if you want to volunteer but you're not sure what to do, spend a few minutes thinking through your own interests and skills. Consider who you want to help, the age group, and how you can help. There's a good chance you have professional or personal skills and interests that you can pass on to a student. Just scanning our volunteer website in King County, I found volunteer opportunities for people who enjoy science, technology, engineering, and math. I also found ways for people who love arts, sports, gardening, or writing. There's so many volunteer opportunities that allow you to share your passion with young people, even if the opportunity doesn't specifically ask for that expertise. It's still something you can share. So if prospective volunteers think about their skills and what they are interested in, that's a great way to start.
Those are terrific ideas and suggestions and tips for all of us in how to get started. Another question that comes up regularly as we talk about working with young people is the question of background checks. A lot of people have questions and concerns about what a background check involves. What can you tell us about that?
Well, background checks vary depending on the location and the type of volunteering you're doing. They are important, though, so it's good to keep that in mind. They protect the volunteer and they protect the student. It's an extra precaution that's needed when working with young people. Different states, counties, and even cities have different background check processes, so it's worth looking at the Live United site, where there is a good summary of background checks and how they're handled throughout the country. I would just remind people to be patient. So as with all things, background checks can take a little time to get processed. And in the meantime, you might ask the agency you're interested in volunteering with if maybe there's some other way you can volunteer that isn't with direct contact with children until your background check comes through. The main thing to remember is they exist, background checks exist for a reason. It's really important, so be patient, and ultimately you'll be rewarded with a great volunteer experience.
Thanks, Leanne. And it's one of those things that you need to check depending on the state in which you're living. It varies, and some organizations will take care of it for you, and in other cases it may be something that you may have to do on your own. A lot of people think that they may not have enough time. It's sort of been a theme here today to commit to a volunteer opportunity. Can you share a little bit, Leanne, about how you address that there in Seattle?
Yeah. Well, I may sound like a broken record, but there are so many different things going on out there that there's bound to be an opportunity even for the busiest person. Some opportunities are once a week, others less frequent, so you can look at that timing. You can volunteer before school, after school, evenings, over the weekend. And for example, our United Way of King County, we have the volunteer reader program. Some people volunteer during their lunch break at a child care center near where they work. So it's really easy to fit in. Some organizations do offer group or team mentoring, so there's a little bit of pressure off of you if, in case you can't make it one day, there's a backup for you. And as we just heard, some volunteering can happen over the internet. So there's definitely a range of ways that you can connect. Sometimes you do need to do a little digging to find the best match for you. So check out the websites, talk to your local United Way. But really, there's so many opportunities out there. There's something for everyone. You just need to start looking.
That's great. And so it may not be the opportunity at any organization or every organization, but someone out there might have that flexibility that meets your schedule, meets your needs as well. Well, thank you very much, Leanne, for your input, for sharing your expertise. And as Leanne said, there are lots of opportunities out there. You can use liveunited.org, our website, to find some of them, as she had mentioned. And to do that, just go to liveunited.org/volunteer and type in your zip code. And the zip code can be where you live, or it could be the zip code where you work, whatever makes most sense for you. Thanks again, Leanne, for joining us today. We'll see you later.
Thanks, May. Happy to help.
Great. You can also expand or contract the search distance when you're looking for an opportunity. So at present on the site, it defaults to a 25-mile radius. But if you want to look closer or expand out further, we're completely capable of doing that as well. It's completely up to you. When you go to liveunited.org, you can also take the pledge to be a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, and you can send an invitation to other people to pledge as well. Plus, there are lots of other things on the site that you can check out. Leanne just mentioned the information about background checks. That's there. There's also a list with some great suggestions for places to volunteer and what to expect when you do. You can read what volunteers from around the country have to say about their experiences, and once you start, we hope you'll share your own story too. There's reading tips, lots of videos, brochures, other resources to support what you're doing or what you want to be doing in this area. We're going to bring this webcast to a close, but you might still have some more specific questions for our panelists. Several of them have offered to stay online and are available for a live chat. So what you need to do now is click on this link that's on your screen, and you'll be connected with the chat room. We've divided the chat space into 3 areas. United Way's Volunteer Call to Action, which will be the one I'll be moderating. Finding the right volunteer opportunity for you, and that's where Leanne will be available to answer any of your questions. And building a good volunteer-student relationship where you can learn more from Ron, Jonathan, and Aaron. Before we end this orientation, I want to thank everyone who's participated today, both the speakers and each of you online. And again, on behalf of United Way, thanks so much for all you're doing to help our nation's children and really our nation's future. Thank you very, very much.